Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with works you collect compulsively. And actually, one of you mentioned this. I was shocked to see it. I was happy to see it. It's always nice to know that others share your particular fetish, because the work in question is Beethoven's Consecration of the House Overture. One of the strangest pieces of music the guy ever wrote, or anybody in the classical period for that reason. Even the great Donald Francis Tovey, the great musicologist and program note writer, was completely baffled by the Consecration of the House Overture. It was all he could do to just simply describe it and let it happen. And it is an amazing work. It was Beethoven's tribute to Handel. I mean, that's how it started, because the main body of the thing is a very Baroque-ish fugue. Well, I mean, Baroque-ish. I mean, it has interesting little cadences and things that may, hark back to Handel. Like the Hallelujah chorus, and he shall reign forever and ever, with a little trill there. I mean, Beethoven sort of does that in the Consecration of the House Overture. It's really kind of amazing. But then there's all this stuff that happens before you get to it. And then there's, of course, this enormous coda after the fugue, because it is a classical work in the sonata style, however nutty the way it's arranged. So what is the Consecration of the House Overture? Well, Beethoven wrote it for the dedication of a building. Okay, we know that, a theater. And it was actually part of the same play / extravaganza that he wrote The Ruins of Athens for, but it was sort of a revised and updated version of that. But it's one of the very few late works we have by Beethoven, late orchestral works. There are very, very few of them. So it's major. It's a major piece. It's about, what is it? Like 9, 10, 11 minutes long, something like that. So how does it work? Well, it begins with a march, a very beautiful, stately, grand march. And after the stately grand march, which uses trombones, and it's the only part of the piece that uses trombones, they go out. Then there's a fanfare, a nice theatrical fanfare with trumpets. With fanfare, with trumpets and timpani. And over the fanfare, or under the fanfare, I should say, you have these weird runs on the bassoon, which Tovey said is like the sound of hurrying feet, latecomers getting into the theater. So they're doing the fanfare, then you hear the bassoons underneath. It's one of the weirdest things you've ever heard. And one of the reasons I compulsively collect this overture is I want to hear how that works, because you got to hear the bassoons. You do. But with trumpets and drums blasting out, balances can be a little difficult. I mean, on recordings, you can adjust the balances with the microphones, and you should. You do not want a natural sound there, because, who knows how Beethoven's hearing affected what he thought was going to happen. But you want to hear those bassoons under the trumpets and timpani, and you want the trumpets and timpanis to play loudly. Usually when the bassoons come in, everyone pulls back, so that you can hear them. But that's not right. And it's not what Beethoven wants. What you really need is a flotilla of bassoons, like, 10 or 12 of them, and then you might be able to get it. But anyway, that's okay. So that's one of those moments that I'm sure that my fellow consecration of the Housenicks listen for. I mean, you've got to listen for that, right? And then there's this sort of Rossinian climax. The music's just going cha 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 ta 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 ta. That's this sort of Rossini-like crescendo, and rises up to this big, big climax that doesn't really go anywhere. And then it settles down, and gradually, do-do-do, boo-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do, and it revs up again, and we're in the middle. It doesn't sound like it's the beginning of it. You're in the middle of this huge double fugue. It's just going da da ba da 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 ba da 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 ba da da ba da. There's a counter subject underneath it that's like da 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 da. It's gorgeous. It's this fabulous fugue, and it just goes on and on and on, and it has climaxes, and it seems to stop, then it starts up again, and then finally it ends, and you get this enormous coda, which is just about as long as the fugue was, and it goes flipping on to its triumphant conclusion. Gosh, it's weird. I mean, it's so much fun, but it's like just a series of episodes, and then this giant object, and then a celebration after that, because the house has been consecrated, I guess, or dedicated, or whatever. So it really is like an astonishing piece of music. It has this captivating, addictive quality to it. And for a short work, there's so many bits that sound so different from one performance to the next. I mean, in the fugue part, you want to have clarity of texture. The coda has to be just slamming. I said the fanfare things. You want to hear the trombones echoing in the opening march. I mean, there's just a million things that you can listen for in this tiny little compact space. And that's what makes it so wonderful. And I think makes it such compulsive listening for those of us who are completely enraptured by this strange example of Beethoven's eccentric genius. So what are the recordings? My top 5. These are my top 5, and I'm sure you will have some as well, because there are a lot of good performances of it. It tends to not be conducted as much as other Beethoven things. And when it is done, it's usually done by people who kind of are curious too and know what they're doing. So it has plenty of fine performances. Number 1, the Lamoureux Orchestra with Igor Markevitch. That's probably my go-to 9 times out of 10, because all of Markevitch's Beethoven with Lamoureux was amazing, and he did an overture disc. It's just fabulous. That's really, really exciting, and then the playing is rugged and sharp and spicy, and he gets all the balances and things without messing with the dynamics too much. It's really very impressive. Then the London Symphony Orchestra with Antal Dorati. Those Antal Dorati Mercury Living Presence Beethoven recordings. He did 5, 6, 7, a couple others. He did some in Minneapolis or whatever, but those London Symphony Mercury Living Presence Beethoven discs are wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And he did a few overtures. One of them was this one, and it's incredibly linear and exciting. It's great. He doesn't do the bassoon and trumpet thing the way quite I want to, but you have to be open. You have to be open, because it's very seldom going to be done the way Beethoven wrote it. So people have to make adjustments. So anyway, that's a terrific one. And then the Minnesota Orchestra with Stanislaw Skrowaczewski, his Beethoven overtures and incidental music. We've talked about them before on Vox. I mean, they are wonderful. The Leonora Overture number 3. Oh my God, it's got the climax to end all climaxes. Really powerful, exciting performances driven by a conductor-composer who treats the music the way a composer would. In other words, he wants to hear everything, which is really, really nice. And his tempos tend to be swift and exciting. It's wonderful performance. Then there's Otto Klemperer with the Philharmonia. Yes, of course. Klemperer was perfect for this piece, frankly, because, he gets the stateliness, he gets the clarity of the fugue. You've got the woodwinds really, really forward. He doesn't do you hear the bassoons. He doesn't do the trumpets and timpanis loudly as maybe they should be done. But that is a Klemperer piece, because he would just sit there with, grinding it out in one tempo over the entire work, and it works fabulously. It's just a monolithic and exciting and powerful approach. Really is. It's just delightful. And then we have the Philadelphia Orchestra with Riccardo Muti as my 5th pick. This is just fast and thrilling. I mean, it's a complete no-nonsense, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, powerhouse of a performance. And Muti's Beethoven generally wasn't that interesting. It really wasn't. He did much better and other things. But this overture, this was a surprise. It's just a volcano of orchestral excitement, and I enjoy it for that purpose. Not the most subtle, maybe not the most intellectually interesting, and trying to wrap your brain around what the piece is, but it's pretty nifty. So there you have it. Those are my 5 picks. I'm interested to know yours if you are, like me, a compulsive consecration of the Hauser. Keep on listening. Friends, thanks for joining me. Take care.